September 11th made me who I am today. I think it made a lot of us who we are today. But this is my story. I was a New York City kid, and when I first came to New York City, it was at night, and the skyline was all lit up. It looked like some sort of magical kingdom. And towering above all of those were the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, still my favorite skyscraper, and the Twin Towers. The Twin Towers were not decorative in the same way that the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building, those kinds of Art Deco structures were. The Twin Towers were squares, they were ugly in some ways, they were meant as triumphs of technology, of our ability to construct something that massive. And the destruction of the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center equally made the same point. What we can build, they can destroy. That was their message to us. It's still their message to us. It's their message not only when it comes to skyscrapers, but our society, our values, our beliefs, our convictions. Terrorists operate not by simple conquest, but by destroying and breaking the morale of those who would oppose them. That's what we saw in Afghanistan. It's what we've seen in our own soil. September 11th was an incredibly clarifying day. And we need clarifying moments, even when they're horrifying ones, whether it's September 11th or what just happened in Afghanistan. Because we exist in a kind of muddle. We often focus on the outrage of the day, the talking point of the day, the trending outrage. But we don't actually take the long view. And our enemies, whether it's communist China or the jihadis, they very much take the long view. They are all about the long view. You know, when David Horowitz joined the right, became a conservative, he jokes that he joined the losing side. And, you know, a lot of the time it does feel like we're on the losing side. Considering the inroads that the Muslim Brotherhood, that their Islamist allies have made since September 11th, it's absolutely incredible. The population gains in the United States alone have been mind-blowing. Their political influence. You know, after September 11th, we could at least discuss Islamic terrorism, Muslim terrorism, even if we did it in terms of Islamofascism. Today, we basically are not even allowed to do that much. So it's certainly hard to say, even beyond what happened in Afghanistan, that we look like the winning side. And yet it is really important to understand that this is a long-term struggle. So on September 11th, it looked like the world very much was ending. People coming out covered in ash. The sky itself, I mean, I'm sure you've seen pictures of it, videos of it, but seeing it in real life is indescribable. When you see it in video, when you see it in a picture, cameras do something artificial to images. They make them abstract, no matter how graphic they are. When you see something in real life, when you experience it in real life, there's no way to properly convey it. But it very much felt like the world was ending. And there were contrasts. There were incredible contrasts. On the one hand, people went down to Ground Zero to volunteer to hand out sandwiches. The subways ran for free, movie theaters opened and just welcomed in people free of charge. Just come in. I believe Planet of the Apes was playing at the time. In some ways, very apt. But, on the other hand, you saw at Union Square left-wing students setting up banners, anti-American banners, calling against any attack on the Taliban, on Afghanistan, on Al-Qaeda, blaming America for the attacks. Those signs said that we had to take responsibility. It was our fault that we had been attacked. And that was also a clarifying moment. Because what happened was not a disaster, was not a catastrophe, it was not some sort of passive voice experience. It was an attack on us. And those signs, those banners were also an attack on us. There was an attack from without and an attack from within. And this is what we've been dealing with the red-green axis, with the enemies without and the enemy within. And both were very clarifying. They were clarifying in this gap between good and evil, between the choices that we had to make, between the determination that we needed to go forward. And we need those clarifying moments. We need those moments that force us to choose good or evil, America or enemies. We need those moments because without those moments, we become so easily lost. And this is really in some ways the tragedy. We have a very comfortable life. Even those of us who are not comfortable are very comfortable compared to, say, life in Afghanistan, or really 90% of the world, certainly 80% of the world. We don't have the same stresses and challenges, and it becomes very easy to just drift, to put in a day's worth of work, to have a beer, to curl up in front of the TV at night, to go to sleep, and to just repeat it over and over again without a larger cause, a larger commitment. And there are moments that break us out of that, that force us to confront the fact that there is a larger struggle in life, that there are challenges, that we cannot just coast and we cannot just drift. For me, September 11th was very definitely one of those moments. It forced me to investigate, to examine, to decide what kind of commitment I could make to finding out who did this and resisting them. And this is what I've been doing for, well, quite a few years now. In the process, my hair has developed some gray hairs in it. And a lot of the time it does not look like we're winning, but that doesn't mean that the fight is not worth fighting. We can withdraw from Afghanistan, we cannot withdraw from America. We cannot withdraw from our communities or from our homes. Too many of us are doing that already. The real front, the real battle is always going to be here. That was true on September 11th, it is still true today. The various nation-building exercises, the various wars, well, if we were actually to fight legitimate wars that would actually take out the backers of the terrorists, their actual infrastructure, well, that would be worth doing, but we have done very, very little of that. I'll skip over those critiques because they'd be for another video and another discussion. But the real battle is always going to be here. It's a battle for, as the administration like to say, hearts and minds. But not their hearts and minds, not Afghan hearts and minds, not Iraqi hearts and minds, American hearts and minds. We need these clarifying moments, and we are going to get them. And we are going to get them harder and faster. That's for the duration that it takes us to wake up. That is the simple, practical, ugly reality of it. We are going to be hit over and over again. We are going to be hit when we do see it coming and when we don't. The media may not cover it, but Islamic terrorist plots continue to happen on a regular basis. Whatever happened in Afghanistan doesn't fundamentally change that. Whatever we do, they are going to keep coming. There's an enemy without and there's an enemy within, and every day there are more and more of the enemy within, which calls upon us to have more of those clarifying moments, to wake up, to commit, and to stop being distracted, because it is very easy to be distracted. The internet in particular, what it has evolved into, is a fantastic mechanism, a weapon of mass distraction that diverts us from what really matters and from what's really going on. It shouldn't take a clarifying moment. It shouldn't take the collapse of skyscrapers. It shouldn't take the murder of thousands for us to wake up. And yet, it might take that now and over again. That is the real tragedy. The real tragedy is that on September 11th, I could feel so many New Yorkers waking up, people who were Democrats, people who were on the left, waking up and realizing what was at stake, realizing that there are people who hate us, who intend to kill us, and who intend to keep on trying to kill us over and over again. There was a spirit of solidarity, such as the stuff of things I'd only read about World War II. We had that. We had that for days, we had that for weeks. And we lost it. But there is hope in that, because the fact that we had it means that we can get it back again. The question is, how many clarifying moments, how many September 11th will it take? That's the question. And that's my message for September 11th. Thank you for listening.